Baby Driver is a jukebox musical action comedy film written and directed by Edgar Wright. The film stars Ansel Elgort, Lily James, John Hamm, John Bernthal, Kevin Spacey and Eiza González. Now, going into this film, I was so unbelievably excited because, in case you don't know already, I'm a massive fan of Edgar Wright. He's one of my favourite directors of all time. Pretty much all of his films I would consider some of my favourite films of all time. I absolutely love the Three Flavours Cornetto trilogy, and I remember a few years back when this film was first announced, I was super hyped, really excited. All I knew was that it was going to be an Edgar Wright film and it was called Baby Driver. Other than that, I had no idea what the film was going to be about, but just that alone got me super excited. And I remember earlier this year when the first trailer came out and it was first shown at South by Southwest, and all these amazing positive reactions and really massive amount of buzz this film got. And even though I was super excited and I'm a massive fan of Edgar Wright, I was still a little trepidatious going into this, because when a film gets so hyped and everybody loves it, I don't want to get my expectations too high because I don't want to be disappointed. It was a similar thing with La La Land. I went into that film super hyped and I was really worried I'd be disappointed, but like La La Land, Baby Driver definitely did not disappoint me. It was so awesome. Now, right off the bat here, I have to mention the direction by Edgar Wright. Like I said, Edgar Wright is one of my favourite writer-directors working today. I think he is so great. I'm an Edgar Wright fanboy, what can I say? I mean, I've loved every single film he's done. And that's not to say I'm some blind fanboy that just loves everything he does. I have loved every film he's done, but every film he's done has been fantastic. Like, I think he's really great. He's like, for me, he's yet to make a bad film. Now that I've seen Baby Driver, I'm convinced now more than ever that Edgar Wright is incapable of making a bad film. Seriously, every time he makes a movie, he just knocks it out of the park, and he did it once again with Baby Driver. It was just such a fun time, such a great ride, and again, talking about the direction by Edgar Wright, I just love how he directs his films. They're just so cool, unique, stylistic, and he does the same kind of thing here with Baby Driver. But the great thing about Edgar Wright's films are that even though they're kind of highly stylized, it's not style of substance like something like maybe a Zack Snyder film. With Edgar Wright, there is kind of substance underneath, but they're also really cool, stylistic, original, unique, and it's the same thing with Baby Driver. Seriously, Edgar Wright really knocked it out of the park. I can't say enough good things about his direction with this film. I loved how it was shot. We got that. You got the typical thing you'd expect from an Edgar Wright movie, like the quick edits and the fast cuts. But it's also had a lot of kind of long, fluid camera movements that I like, which is kind of different to his other movies. It's not as fast-paced and quick cut as some of his other movies. There's a lot of long, fluid camera movements that really immerse you into the world of the film, particularly with the car chases, where you're just watching all these incredible sequences unfold on screen, and you just get really sucked into the world of the film, and it just feels like you're just there witnessing these events firsthand. It's just so awesome. And I've got to talk about the actual concept of this film. A lot of people have talked about it, the fact that this is kind of like a music driven action film. The score is basically entirely soundtrack, and it's essentially a musical, a jukebox musical if you will, where the entire score is pop songs and like this soundtrack, but it is done so incredibly well. One of the things that I was a little nervous about is it going to feel like a little bit of a gimmick, like almost every scene in the film being cut to music? Is that going to come off a little bit of like kind of a gimmick? Is it going to be a bit of a novelty that's going to wear off? But absolutely not. And maybe if it was any other director, it might have got a little tiring and repetitive, it might have got a little bit boring, but Edgar Wright, you can tell he's got such a strong hold on this film, and you can tell that he planned it all out. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and he executed it to perfection. And as much as I love John Wick, with John Wick Chapter 2, as incredible as the action is in that film, for me it became a little tiring and repetitive as that film went on. But here, it just works so incredibly effectively all the way through. It's constantly firing all cylinders. I loved how like everything in this film visually is like choreographed to music. It's so incredibly cool and unique. And films have done it before, but it's usually just like little bits here and there. I mean, Edgar Wright's done it before. He did it with the attacking the zombie in the Winchester scene in Shaun of the Dead. But seriously, this whole entire movie is choreographed to music. It's pretty much like a song for every scene. And it's not just a gimmick, because it's so incredibly well written. It's phenomenally directed, so well executed about everything going on visually on screen, how it's all captured, how it's all filmed, how the action's all choreographed, and just beat by beat everything is done to the music, and it's just so awesome. And because it's so cool and so unique, and because it's so well done, it never wears off. It never becomes a fad. It never becomes a novelty. It was just so incredibly well done. I can't speak enough about how awesome this movie was. Just the blend between action and music, it was done so well. Also, being more of an action film, I've got to talk about the action sequences, because this is really the first Edgar Wright movie where it's kind of like a big action movie. A lot of his other movies are kind of smaller. They're not like big action films necessarily, but this being like a kind of really cool car chase, crime caper, action comedy film. There are so many great action sequences, and seeing Edgar Wright take on just car chases was just so cool to see, because for me this is like the best car chase film since Fury Road, and probably the best heist film since Point Break. I mean, I'm not as well versed in car chase movies and as heist films as I would like, but for me it was just so incredibly well done. I just loved how Edgar Wright directed these action sequences, because as far as I'm aware, there's like no CGI in this film, and if there is CGI, it was very minimal and like not noticeable at all, because the majority, if not all, of the action sequences that go down in this film are practical. They're actually really happening in camera, and the way in which Edgar Wright just executed these sequences and shot these scenes it was just so awesome to watch unfold. It's really kind of, some of the car chase scenes in this movie are some of the most visceral, kinetic car chase action scenes I've seen in a long time. It's so well done. I just loved how he directed these scenes. Like I said, the long fluid camera movements, you can just tell that everything that's going down is actually happening right there, unfolding in front of your very eyes, and it just makes it all the more thrilling and visceral and riveting to watch unfold, because you can tell it's really happening. It's not fake, it's not CGI, it's not green screen. You can tell it's really there, happening on screen in real life, and it was just so awesome to watch unfold. And also, I've got to talk about the performances by the actors. I loved all the actors in this movie. It's such a great cast. I mean, Edgar Wright has always assembled great actors in the cast of his films, but it's a really big powerhouse cast, and all of the actors in this movie really deliver. We got Kevin Spacey, we got Jon Hamm, we got Jamie Foxx. It's an incredible cast. And sometimes you get kind of action comedy films where they've got these big stars in the film, and you can tell they're not really invested, they don't really care, they're not really giving it their everything, and they're just kind of maybe getting a paycheck. But with this movie, you can just tell that every single person in this cast is 100% in. Everybody's giving their all. There's not one single actor in this cast where they're like, oh, that was the weak link, or they weren't that great. Seriously, every single performer in this movie were terrific. Like, everyone made an impression. And it's rare you can say that in a movie where it's like an ensemble cast and everyone made an impression. Everyone really delivered their A game. You could tell they were so invested and so kind of were really into this movie. Were really on the same page as Edgar Wright, and that was just so awesome to see, because we've got these great actors in this cast. Kevin Spacey, great actor. He's great in everything he's in, but it's just so awesome to see him in this film, in an Edgar Wright movie. He's like this crime boss, and it works. It is so great. And it was so awesome to see him in that role. Jamie Foxx was awesome as well. Jon Hamm was great, seeing him in a kind of different kind of film to what he normally does. And also Ansel Elgort, I have to mention. I've never been really the biggest Ansel Elgort fan before this. He's kind of been in these kind of like teen romance films like Fault in Our Stars, but after this movie, I am sold on Ansel Elgort. He did such a great job. I was a little maybe worried about him going into the movie. Was he the right guy for the main star in the film? But he really knocked it out of the park. He really impressed me. And also Lily James, I really like. Great British actress, been in Downton Abbey, War and Peace, and she's also been in movies like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. She's never been in that many great films, but she did a really great job here. She's more than just the love interest. You know, I really liked her character and her relationship with Ansel Elgort's baby, the chemistry between her and Ansel Elgort. And that's another thing I have to mention, actually. This film although it was a really cool, crazy, fun, awesome comedy, action, heist film, it also had an emotional undercurrent to it, which I wasn't expecting. There's kind of flashbacks to Ansel Elgort's character's baby's mum, which pop up in flashes every now and then, and that provided a kind of an emotional element to the movie which I wasn't expecting. And also the relationship between Baby and Lily James's Debbie, I really enjoyed that aspect of the film. I loved both of them in those two roles, and for me they really sold it. I mean, the writing was great, but because those two were so great in those roles, I really bought into it. You know, if it was two actors that weren't that great, I might not have bought into it, I might not have believed it, but because those two were so great, I just bought into it. It was really convincing, and I really liked the relationship between those two, and it was a real big important part of this movie. Everything kind of revolves around really the relationship between the two of them. So if that didn't work, the movie probably wouldn't have worked as well as it did. But because I loved Ansel Elgort and Lily James in those two roles, and I think they did a really great job at selling this kind of a relationship to us that they have, I really bought into it. I thought it was really charming. I really liked that aspect of the film. And also there's a lot of really great setups and payoffs in this film, and I always hate it when films kind of like set up something and they mention something and they don't follow up on it. But with this film, there were so many great things that were mentioned to us early on, and then they really pay off to us big time later on in the film. And finally, I also loved, which caught me off guard a little bit, that this movie had a very kind of serious, dramatic side to it as well. You'd think it would just be a really kind of fun, crazy, awesome comedy action film, and it is, but it's also a legitimately great, serious crime kind of drama film as well, and I love that. And it's another thing that, you know, you can tell is Edgar Wright brought it to this movie. If it was anyone else, it probably would have been a bit of a silly, stupid throwaway film, but because it's Edgar Wright, not only does all the comedy and action work really well, but it's also a really great crime caper, and it gets more dramatic and more serious as it goes on, and you buy into it and you believe it. You know, even though it starts off a little bit more maybe light-hearted, a little bit more kind of fun, as it goes on it gets more serious, it gets more dramatic, whilst keeping all the kind of the fun music elements to it as well. I really liked that aspect of the film. I really wasn't expecting it to be as serious, as intense and dramatic as it was, because as awesome and fun as it was, there was also many scenes in this film that were genuinely suspenseful and really kind of intense. I didn't know what was going to happen or what was going to go down. So I really liked that. I really liked that it was kind of a serious, awesome kind of crime caper as well as a fun kind of musical action movie as well. I think it was just a really great combination between those two things. In fact, the only real criticism I give this movie, and it's a nitpick really, is that it hits a little bit of a lull kind of halfway through when Baby thinks he's going to kind of go away from crime and settle down with Lily James. There's a little bit of a dip at that point in the film, but it really lasts only for a moment, and this is really me nitpicking. For the most part, I absolutely love this film. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It's just as good, maybe even better than I was hoping it would be. Edgar Wright once again knocked out of the park, delivering such a fun, awesome, entertaining action, comedy, crime, caper film I absolutely loved. And just like his other movies, I really feel like this is going to be a film that's going to hold up, that's going to really kind of be just as rewarding on multiple viewings, that you can go back and just watch it over and over again, and it's really going to hold up, really going to pay off on multiple viewings. Also, the movie was incredibly funny as well, as you'd expect from Edgar Wright. It's not necessarily a full-blown comedy, but it's got that kind of that humour to it that you'd expect from an Edgar Wright film. Also very funny. Seriously, from beginning to end, I had a smile on my face. And, you know, it's rare that you can say that with a film nowadays, that you just go in and you just thoroughly entertain from start to finish. But I was with Baby Driver. So overall, as you may have guessed, I'm going to give Baby Driver 5 stars. And there we have it. That wraps up my review of Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. Have you seen the film yet? And if so, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this and you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more. Also, if you missed my last film review, be sure to go ahead and click over here to catch up on my last film review, or perhaps down here to catch up on another one of my recent videos. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.